You think you know what happened when those cameras stopped rolling? You think WWE showed you everything? Think again. While millions of fans were clicking away, believing the show was over, Roman Reigns was backstage having a reunion that changes everything we thought we knew about the Bloodline saga. And here's what's going to make your blood boil: WWE deliberately kept this from you. They didn't want you to see the real story. They didn't want you to witness the moment that proves everything you've been watching for months was carefully orchestrated manipulation. But we got the exclusive details, and what went down is going to shatter your understanding of who the real puppet master is in this entire situation. What I'm about to reveal didn't make it to social media. It wasn't in any official WWE press release. And there's a reason for that. Because if fans knew what Roman actually said to the Usos when those arena lights dimmed, if people understood the real dynamic that exists behind those curtains, it would completely flip the narrative WWE has been feeding us. You're being played. We're all being played. And the evidence is in what happened in those private moments after Raw went off the air. Picture this: the crowd's gone home, the production crew is wrapping cables, and in a dim backstage area, Roman Reigns stands face to face with G and Jimmy Uso. No cameras, no scripted promos, just family. Except here's where it gets disturbing. Witnesses say Roman wasn't the humbled, defeated tribal chief we've been conditioned to see lately. He was praising them, genuinely thanking them, telling them how proud he was of their work. Does that sound like a man who's lost control? Does that sound like a family torn apart? Or does it sound like a perfectly executed plan where everyone knew their role, played their part, and fooled every single one of us? Now, before we go any deeper, we have a quick request for you. We are constantly working to improve our content to earn your love and support. That's why we would truly appreciate it if you could take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update here on Wrestling Zone Insider. Let's get back to what really matters: the truth that WWE doesn't want trending on Twitter tomorrow morning. According to multiple sources who were present in the backstage area, Roman's demeanor was completely different from what we see on television. There was no anger, no resentment, no frustrated dictator trying to maintain control of his crumbling empire. Instead, there was laughter, there were embraces, there was a level of genuine respect and admiration that directly contradicts the storyline we've been emotionally invested in for over a year now. Roman reportedly told both G and Jimmy that their performances over the past several months have been nothing short of exceptional, that they've elevated not just the Bloodline story, but their own individual stock in ways that will benefit them for the rest of their careers. Here's trivia question number 1 for you: how many years has the Bloodline storyline been running since Roman Reigns first aligned with Paul Heyman? Drop your answer in the comments below because I want to see who's been paying attention from the very beginning. But back to this backstage reunion, the most fascinating part wasn't just the praise, it was the strategy discussion that followed. Multiple insiders report that Roman, the Usos, and even Solo Psycho, who joined them shortly after, spent nearly 20 minutes discussing the direction of their characters, the timeline of potential reunions, and how they've successfully manipulated fan emotions throughout this entire saga. They were analyzing it like chess masters reviewing a completed game, pointing out which moves generated the most social media engagement, which moments created the strongest emotional responses, and which direction they should pivot next to keep the audience hooked. Does this make you angry? It should, because it means that every tear G Uso shed, every moment of family conflict that made you feel something real, every segment that had you debating with friends about who was right and who was wrong, it was all calculated. They weren't just performing a storyline. They were conducting a psychological experiment on the entire WWE fanbase, and we were the unwitting subjects. Let's talk about what Roman specifically praised them for, because this is where things get even more manipulative. He reportedly commended G for his ability to make the audience believe he was genuinely torn between family loyalty and personal dignity. Think about that. Roman was praising G for successfully lying to us. He applauded Jimmy for the way he played the conflicted brother trying to mediate and keep peace, knowing full well that this role would make fans sympathetic to his position. Every single emotional beat we invested in was acknowledged backstage not as authentic family drama, but a successful manipulation. And here's what's going to infuriate you even more: Roman allegedly told them that the beauty of their performances was that fans would never fully figure out where the storyline ended and real family dynamics began. He said the blurred line between reality and fiction is what makes the Bloodline saga the most compelling story in modern wrestling. In other words, he's proud that we can't tell what's real anymore. He's celebrating the confusion and emotional manipulation. Several wrestlers who overheard parts of this conversation said Roman was almost professorial in his analysis, breaking down specific segments and explaining why certain choices worked better than others. He praised the moment when G finally superkicked him as a perfect culmination of long-term storytelling. He called Jimmy's return and subsequent alignment shifts masterclass level character work. This wasn't a family healing. This was a performance review. This was a tactical debriefing of how successfully they'd worked the audience. Now, some of you might be thinking, isn't this just wrestlers being professional and discussing their craft? And sure, on one level, that's exactly what it is. But here's the problem: WWE has spent years trying to convince us that the Bloodline story is different, that it's more authentic, that it's rooted in real family history and genuine emotion. They positioned this saga as transcendent storytelling that goes beyond typical wrestling angles. And now we find out that behind the scenes, they are treating it exactly like every other worked storyline, analyzing it for fan manipulation effectiveness and congratulating each other on how well they fooled everyone. The praise Roman gave wasn't just about in-ring performance or promo delivery. According to witnesses, he specifically thanked them for their commitment to selling the dysfunction even during live events and non-televised appearances. He appreciated that they stayed in character during fan interactions and on social media, maintaining the illusion even when cameras weren't officially rolling. This level of dedication to the work is admirable from a professional standpoint, but absolutely infuriating from a fan perspective because it means there wasn't a single moment where we were getting genuine, unfiltered reality from any of them. Here's trivia question number 2. What was the name of the faction Roman Reigns led before the Bloodline was formed? Leave your answer in the comments and let's see who remembers Roman's journey to the top. What makes this backstage meeting even more significant is the timing. This happened after a Raw episode where the Bloodline story took yet another dramatic turn, where allegiances shifted, and where fans were left emotionally exhausted from the constant back and forth. And immediately after delivering that emotional exhaustion to millions of viewers, the performers involved retreated backstage to celebrate how effectively they'd executed the manipulation. There's something almost cynical about it: the immediate transition from selling heartbreak on camera to laughing about it off camera. One particularly interesting detail that emerged from this meeting: Roman allegedly discussed potential timelines for a full Bloodline reunion, suggesting that they are already planning several months ahead for how this story resolves. He mentioned specific pay-per-view events and discussed which reunion moment would generate the maximum fan response and media coverage. This confirms what many of us have suspected: every separation, every conflict, every emotional moment is just a chapter in a predetermined story where the ending is already written. They know they are getting back together. They know how it's going to happen. We're just waiting for them to reveal what they've already decided. The respect Roman showed toward the Usos was apparently genuine and heartfelt, which in some ways makes this whole situation even more complicated. Because you can't argue that he doesn't truly care about his family. The praise wasn't hollow or performative. By all accounts, he genuinely believes they are talented performers who've contributed enormously to his legacy and their collective success. But that genuine familial love exists alongside this cold, calculated approach to audience manipulation. Both things are true simultaneously, which is perhaps the most unsettling aspect of this entire revelation. Several superstars who witnessed the interaction said it was actually beautiful to see the real family dynamics on display, the genuine affection and pride that exists between them when the performance stops. But that beauty is tainted by the knowledge that they consciously use that real connection to make the fake conflict more believable. They weaponize their authentic family bond to make us believe in manufactured drama. That's not just good storytelling, it's borderline psychological manipulation on a mass scale. Roman's praise extended to specific moments and matches. He reportedly called their tag team work against various opponents throughout this storyline some of the best tag team wrestling in company history. He acknowledged that their ability to carry matches while also advancing character work was something that elevated them beyond typical tag teams. He recognized that they'd managed to be both exceptional athletes and compelling actors simultaneously, which is the rarest combination in professional wrestling. But here's what WWE doesn't want you to focus on. If Roman was this complimentary, this appreciative, and this collaborative with the Usos immediately after the show, what does that say about all the on-screen tension we've been watching? It means every harsh word was written. Every dismissive gesture was choreographed. Every moment of disrespect was performed with mutual agreement beforehand. The toxic tribal chief isn't toxic at all, he's a performer playing a role, and everyone involved knows it, approves of it, and benefits from it. The meeting reportedly lasted much longer than typical post-show interactions. While most superstars were heading to their hotels or grabbing quick meals, the Bloodline members were engaged in what sources described as an intensive creative discussion. They weren't just basking in the glow of another successful show, they were actively strategizing about future developments, discussing character motivations, and ensuring they were all aligned on where the story goes next. This is the kind of attention to detail that makes for great television but also reveals just how manufactured every moment truly is. What's particularly revealing is that Paul Heyman was not part of this backstage meeting, at least not initially. This suggests that the family discussions happened separate from the business discussions, and that there's a clear distinction between the Bloodline as a family unit and the Bloodline as a professional storyline. Heyman's role is acknowledged as important but external to the family core, which actually adds an interesting layer to how we should interpret his on-screen relationship with the group. The question we should all be asking now is, does knowing this behind-the-scenes reality diminish the storyline or enhance it? Are we more impressed that they can be this collaborative and supportive off-camera while delivering such convincing conflict on-camera? Or are we less invested knowing that every emotional moment is calculated and pre-planned? There's no easy answer, and honestly, your response to that question probably reveals a lot about how you consume wrestling as entertainment. What Roman Reigns accomplished in that post-Raw backstage area was essentially a masterclass in maintaining kayfabe while breaking it simultaneously. He praised his family members for their work while also reinforcing their collective commitment to continuing the performance. He acknowledged the fictional nature of their on-screen relationship while celebrating the authentic nature of their off-screen bond. It's a complicated dynamic that only exists in professional wrestling, where real relationships are filtered through fictional storylines, and performers must navigate both simultaneously. The implications of this backstage meeting extend far beyond just the Bloodline story. It reveals something fundamental about how modern WWE operates. Everything is content, everything is calculated, and emotional authenticity is just another tool in the manipulation toolkit. The days of unpredictable, genuinely spontaneous storytelling are over. Everything is focus grouped, analyzed for fan response, and engineered for maximum engagement across all platforms. The Bloodline's success isn't accidental, it's the result of meticulous planning and ruthless execution by performers who understand exactly what they are doing to their audience. So where does this leave us as fans? Do we continue investing emotionally in stories we know are manipulating us? Do we appreciate the craft of the manipulation itself? Or do we step back and acknowledge that we're watching a scripted television show and adjust our expectations accordingly? These are the questions WWE hopes we never seriously ask ourselves, because the moment we do, the moment we fully embrace the predetermined nature of everything we're watching, the emotional investment that makes wrestling compelling starts to evaporate. The reunion between Roman Reigns and the Usos after Raw went off the air wasn't just a feel-good family moment or a professional debriefing. It was evidence of the machine behind the magic, the calculation behind the emotion, and the cold business reality behind the hot storylines. They are not just telling us a story, they are conducting an experiment in audience manipulation, and based on Roman's praise for his cousins, the experiment is succeeding beyond their wildest expectations. We're hooked, we're invested, we're exactly where they want us. And now that you know what happened in that backstage area, now that you understand how deliberately they are playing with your emotions, the only question left is, are you going to keep letting them? The choice is yours, but make no mistake, they are counting on you choosing to stay invested despite knowing the truth. Because that's the ultimate manipulation, making you complicit in your own emotional exploitation. Welcome to the Bloodline saga, where even the truth is just another work, and we're all marks for a story we can't help but follow to its predetermined conclusion.